Welcome to the Explainer. You know, it's wild when you actually stop and think about how subtle visual cues completely shape our perception of a brand. I mean, literally, in a fraction of a second, before you even consciously read a single word, a logo can tell you if a brand is cheap, premium, super fast, or rock-solid reliable. So today, we're taking a magnifying glass to a seriously fascinating piece of graphic design to figure out exactly how that psychological trick is pulled off.
Okay, let's dive right into this. When you see this logo in all its glory, what do you naturally feel? Like, do you instantly feel a sense of prestige? Does it convey breakneck speed? Or maybe the fierce heat of competition? This is the CrownGoals logo. And let me tell you, it is doing an immense amount of heavy lifting within a single static image to make us feel all of those things at the exact same time. To understand exactly how it's making us feel that way, we're going to perform a complete visual teardown. Basically, we're going to read this graphic exactly like we'd read a text.
Section 1. Anatomy of CrownGoals. To make sense of this, we'll break it down into three distinct visual components. First up, we have iconography. Next, we'll look at the typography. And finally, we'll wrap up with composition and framing.
Section 2. Royalty meets the pitch. Now, what's really interesting here is this crazy collision of two completely different visual worlds. Dead center, we've got this golden, five-pointed crown. It's perfectly symmetrical, it's static, and it carries this incredibly regal traditional weight. But then, right next to it, actually tucked just slightly behind it, is the classic black and white soccer ball. Now, the ball is inherently kinetic, right? It represents running, kicking, just pure chaotic movement on the field. Putting these two dramatically different symbols right next to each other, it creates this immediate, super exciting visual tension.
That literal crown is doing some serious work as a powerful visual metaphor. I mean, it's not just a shiny hat. It represents ultimate victory, prestige, and reaching the absolute pinnacle of the sport. By quite literally crowning the brand mark, the designer is subliminally telling us, the viewers, that this absolutely isn't amateur hour. No way. This is championship-level competition.
Section 3. Typography in silver and gold.
Shifting gears down to the lettering itself, the typography is actively communicating a whole feeling of its own. Just look at how these two words are treated entirely differently. Let me act as your visual translator for a second here. On the left, the word crown is rendered in this sleek, cool silver. The letters are steady, they're upright, and they are boldly unmoving. They represent stability, a really solid foundation. But then, look over to the right at the word goals. It abruptly shifts into this warm, aggressive gold. The letters are italicized, leaning heavily to the right. And that forward slant, it injects a massive burst of forward-moving, aggressive energy straight into the middle of the logo.
And if you look really closely at the rendering of those letters, you'll see the designer use deep metallic gradients on both words. Notice those bright, almost blinding white highlights and the deep dark shadow lines right within the text? Well, those gradients bridge the two distinct typographic styles, the upright silver and the leaning gold, by giving both of them a shared, highly polished, three-dimensional feel. It totally reinforces that premium, high-stakes championship vibe we were just talking about.
Section 4. Motion and shield composition.
To truly appreciate how this all comes together, we really need to understand a core design concept called motion lines. Basically, motion lines are visual cues or sweeping strokes used by graphic designers to create the illusion of speed, kinetic energy, and directional movement. It's exactly how a clever designer implies fast-paced action inside an image that is, literally, just sitting completely still on your screen. Let's move to the full design to see how this builds in practice. Look at those wrapping horizontal swooshes encircling the text and the ball. This brilliantly illustrates how sweeping gold and silver motion lines do way more than just decorate the empty space around the text. Because they start thin on the left, wrap closely behind the ball, and then shoot out sharply to the right, they physically seem to propel that soccer ball forward and right out of the frame. It adds this incredible, visceral sense of velocity.
But here's the trick, right? Too much velocity and the whole design just feels chaotic and totally unmoored. So how on earth do they ground all this flying energy? Well, first, as we saw, those sweeping swooshes add the kinetic velocity. Second, the sharp, aggressive, pointed angles on the far right ends of the swooshes give the logo a really competitive edge. But finally, and this is key, notice that heavy black and gold V-shaped shield sitting at the very bottom, right below the letters N and G. That downward pointing geometric wedge completely anchors the entire design. It provides that necessary heavy stability to balance out the flying ball and those fast-moving horizontal lines above it. So the absolutely crucial point here is how all of these seemingly disparate pieces interlock and work together as a team. When we pull back and look at the unified logo, we get the whole picture. The static regal crown, the kinetic soccer ball, the steady silver text contrasting beautifully with that aggressive gold text, and the fast motion lines, all of it held together by that solid bottom shield. They completely synthesize into a single, cohesive visual identity that absolutely screams premium sports.
After breaking down its visual vocabulary step by step like this, I really want to leave you with a thought. With its blend of high-end royalty, polished metallic finishes, and relentless forward momentum, does this logo just represent a simple game, or does it boldly promise an empire? Hopefully this explainer has given you fresh, analytical eyes to see how the graphics all around us are quietly communicating absolute volumes to us every single day. Thanks for joining me on this visual deep dive. Keep your eyes sharp, and I'll see you in the next explainer.